Emboldened by our newly minted theories, and through a series of fortunate circumstances, we quickly put the pen to paper and started fleshing out our new project, our flagship space. To walk you through a process, we'd like to revisit our original web orbit. Before even finding a space, we need to clarify and augment our design methodologies. That's kind of like trying to figure out what kind of software and hardware it takes to make a space into a platform. Once we figured this out, it was all to take, the next task was to take all the pieces together and build a physical space, finding a location and implementing our design methods from planning all the way to small features. Very section, so it's great. And lastly, with the physical space fully built, it was trying to put our theories to the test to see if the space can really handle pulling off multiple events of different genres, designs, and ultimately experience. This is a nice little summary of our lives this past 300 years. So, on to Wildrence's design methods. Of course, when we're designing, we do definitely use tried and true methods of immersive design, whether it's found objects or unmarked doors. But when it comes to making a space into a multifaceted one, we approach the design using two different design methods: storytelling through architecture and technology to smart space. First is storytelling through architecture. So Yvonne and I met in architecture school, and when we graduated, moved to New York City, we both worked at conventional architecture firms. So when it came to designing our own space, architecture had a significant impact. And when that space's design challenge was to make a multifaceted one, we tried to follow two important principles deeply rooted in architecture: space for humans and showing autonomy. Our second design method is technology to make a smart space. One of the things that we wanted to look into was designing a space that can quickly change from one moment to the next. So we had to figure out non-physical ways to adapt the space to its narrative. So after much research and even learning a few non-spoken language or two, we decided to integrate lights, sound, and interactivity seamlessly into the space, so to give the impression that the space itself was coming alive.
So the first point I would like to cover for storytelling for architecture is experience, or flow, how a person moves through the space. This is the floor plan of one of the spaces we found. As you can see, it's low interior wall. A little dot is just a bird's eye view of the person to sense of scale. So before acquiring a space, we know that we want multiple rooms, each with their strong, distinct design elements. And we were also interested in creating a flow that's used to unlock. So in order to create a flow through floor plan, all the interior rooms will have to be interconnected, as shown in the shaded areas. Those are the four main areas we have. So the advantage of this type of floor plan is you can eventually end up in the same room that you started at, but with an unexpected entrance. So say going from here, you go all the way back, but you're entering the same room from a different point of view. So if you look closely, all the rooms eventually get connected. And this way, you actually create two entry and exit points. And this way, we can also create different narrative options for each room. So take the purple area, the largest area, for example. Imagine that as if it's a perfect hall here. If one person enters from the top, say there's a door over here, the person sees their room from the stage perspective first, versus the person entering from that door, you see the seating area. So you get very different first impression of the room. And then depending on the narrative is given, then you can go on perceiving the room. So our floor plan is about 1,000 square feet, and it's not that big. So in order to create a flow floor plan, you eventually have this feeling of you keep turning in the same direction because it's eventually going to be closer at that flow. So what we want to do is to create some diversion by adding a narrow hallway that you can turn 180 degrees. And you will be surprised just by simple 180-degree turn. So if you're turning right, and at one point there's one turn that you can turn left, at how much they can disorient your sense of direction. And so it's been proven that many people that enter our space the first time, they get completely confused confused right after the hallway of how they get back to the same space, just because of that one turn. The narrow hallway can also act as a buffer in time. So because it's narrow, it's small, you're turning, you actually pass through the space at its speed. So after we determine all the overall movement, we focus on scale and the theme of the room. Same floor plan, we just go into that furniture for Wildrence. The orientation of the room affects the speed of the person moving through the space. The scale can also be another effect. So we intentionally wanted to create different room scales. So as you can see, every single room kind of varies in scale. Two smaller ones and two larger ones on opposite end. So when you're moving through the space, you can start with small to large, back to small, and then through an even larger room to keep your sense of scale kind of fresh, and also to keep the audience engaged with our environment. That is one of the strongest things that we learn from architecture is to focus on how the environment affects human behavior, how it affects human behavior. So for example, the small spaces tend to slow down how we pass through a space, and depending on how many props or scenic details we put in the space, we can actually manipulate how long the person stays in it. So aside from scale, theme is the other essential design element for any immersive project. So to keep the rooms interesting, we wanted each one to have its own very distinct design. These are the 4 color blocks or color schemes that we want to play with for each room. And at first glance, they might not look like colors that really go well with each other. But with pops of metallic gold, copper color, and wood furnishings, you can begin to see how they can become cohesive. So from these 4 images, you can tell that there's still blue, the orange, the moss green, and the white elements that we wanted. Another design factor that can really change the theme of the room is the lighting. So from this image, you can see that with localized light source onto this, the room naturally is pretty dark, compared to the second image, where it's more of a light flood. The room then becomes warm, much brighter than the other. Another 2 inspirations photo that I want to show. So it's really hard to come by an outdoor space in a city from your city. And the maintenance is another high risk, weather, whatever it is. So when we were designing our space, we really wanted to have an outdoor space inside. And some of the limitations can be just square footage. You don't have enough space, or if you're in a basement, there's not a ceiling height. So what the design direction that we went in is more a surreal type of outdoor space rather than a realistic feeling. So after all the more structural portion of our design method, I would like to discuss showing, not telling, for some examples that are more focused, more smaller scale and object related. Showing, not telling. It is a pretty common suggestion when it comes to storytelling. However, the way we address showing, not telling is through the purpose of an object, the measurements and the placement rather than its characteristics. So we can leave enough room for audience members to fill the blanks. So now I explain further what I mean by that. This is an image of more of the architectural object design. So one of the ways we're trained in design spaces is to control how they affect human behavior. An audience moves about a space in a certain way, like going through the winding hallway, or crawling through a wardrobe, or simply deciding on how, or suggesting how a person can sit. So in this example, a regular height of a chair that we're all sitting on is usually, the standard is about 18 inches tall. So depending on, so if we create a sturdy surface wide enough and straight enough that we can fit one person at 18 inches high, a person is going to feel comfortable to sit down. So in this case, the space is then more or less interpreted information by the receiver with a gentle guidance from the designer. Another way of showing, not telling, is actually then turning or giving the initiative to the receiver. So take a plain rod, for example, at around 32 inches tall. A rod can be perceived as a simple stair handrails, or depending on the location, if you're on a rooftop, then it becomes a fence. Or maybe to a dancer with a ballet bar. So aside from objects directly related to human anatomy, the last example I'm showing here is more about the placement and treatment of materials. So for example, in order to create a fuller, busier library look, what we can do is actually create a floor-to-ceiling bookcase rather than a freestanding one, because you can move it about. So this adds a more permanent structure to a room. The other three photos are just examples of how you can treat any surface in the room. So whether it's floor, it's ceiling, or wall, this is just a wallpaper that's more of a relief. So if you paint with two different color type of paint, you add dimension. Or you can do a paper tube where it's undulating shape so that everything becomes more three-dimensional, giving you like a dreaming effect of everything. So whether it's through larger structure, overall flow, or a more detailed treatments on materials, the methods we derive from architectural training act as our foundation to build our multifaceted space. So our second method into building the spaces through a subtle integration of technology. So a space can be fully equipped with cameras or highly versatile but very user-friendly color changing lights and speakers and other inputs and outputs using Raspberry Pis or Arduinos, which can then all be controlled from one central technical unit. So we have centrally controlled large speakers in every room while having other smaller areas, pockets in our space, smaller speakers basically. And they can actually all be playing different soundtracks depending on how the program is coded. And here we're showing you a short clip from our interactive game called Refuge. So there's a more locally sourced speakers within the birdcage. So when you scan an RFID chip on top, it can trigger some sound.
A storm, a big storm is coming.
So that's a super dramatic one because the game is about close to pocket of war. So by playing sounds at different scales, we can control scenes that an audience experience. So whether it's a really loud bang, say for this whole building that everyone should hear, or if it's an alarm clock only in this room that you guys can hear, or it can be a whisper coming from a closet that only that one person is standing next to. The next example we're showing here is lighting. More visual. We use both lithics and blue lights to allow easy transitions between dimnesses and color moods. The two clips that I'm showing here is actually the base example of these lights. They can do a lot more. So the first one is just a simple, quick color changing of light, so the temperature of light from really cool tone all the way to warm. And then the second one is going through color spectrum, actually basically completing white. So going away from green to orange. So as you can see, lighting affects human moods with great impact. Usually a dim, warm candle flicker suggests like a romantic setting, but with slight changes in dimness or color temperature, a flickering light can soon turn into something maybe quite unpleasant or thrilling or something. The second part of our technology is interactivity. So all the things that we've just seen, all the different inputs, outputs, we were able to create various effects. And I will show you more examples from our past. So here's another clip from the game Refuge. It's one of the games. We actually install copper wires on birch trees in that outdoor space that we have, so that whenever it's in contact with the person's hand, the overall system notice that, and depending on what outputs we do, they can trigger flashing lights. So in this case, it's like the players are supposed to run towards the color that's associated with them, and then by touching a tree, the overall system tells you that yes, you got one point. That's when you deduct. This is an escape room-like experience called Expedition Yellow. We partner with Ironmark Games and Library Lab. Back in 2017, we were at Passing Club. So it's a narrative-driven puzzle game where, in this scenario, all the players were supposed to rummage through the room, find enough clues to solve a 4 to 6 digit code, and then they have to put it into the telephone. So what we did is we gutted the regular telephone out, put a small computer inside, like a Raspberry Pi. So when you press the correct numbers, then you actually hear a clue. Another super fun prop piece we created was a custom designed fire guard, and that was used for our advanced wizarding school for dogs. So what we did here is we used nitrile wire and flash paper, and we were able to remotely trigger a fire. So when a student does a spell, it seemingly looking like the fire is produced out of nowhere. And because the nitrile wire is so thin, with clever placement, it basically looks impossible.
Three, two, one.
And that is only, the little dish is only yay big. And our fire truck is this big, so you can just imagine the surprise when people see the fire. As you can see, having many different inputs and outputs on hand, the possibility of interactivity is endless. So whether it's like adding a weight sensor, say for that person, so if that person sits on a weight sensor and it doesn't sound so, or if it's a laser sensor that you open the oven door and a little video goes inside. So then in this way, the audience can use objects and they can move through the space like they've never experienced before, creating a sense of curiosity and adding more depth to the space. So according to what you see, what you touch, what you hear, maybe what you smell, the space will feel like it's reacting to you. So with all the theories and examples we've shown so far, we would like to show you how we actually build our space and enhance it using the methods we just covered. That is our original condition of the space that we have in Lower East Side. So we found our space through good old Craigslist. And you can tell from the second photo that there are residues of carpet. You can kind of tell that it has some sort of loose structure that got ripped away. So what we've been told is that this place used to be an underground, maybe illegal karaoke bar that got evicted, but then we got the space, so it's great. So the first thing we did was to drum sand the floor down because it was really gross. So we had to do like 3-4 passes. The blue tape that you see is actually the wall, the floor plan that you saw earlier, just to kind of mop up the space. The second thing is to wood stain, poly everything. We did everything by hand. And so we went through a lot of first time doing, just kind of building the space up. It was really hard, but really fun. So this photo, it may not be that pretty, it's just wall studs. But to us, it was probably the first time we felt like our space is coming together. So with the room separation, we were able to walk through the space, judging just, usually we were imagining a space through our floor plan, but this time we actually see it in the space. And that meant a lot. And then comes the super fun interior decorating part. Maybe not fun for all, but really fun for us. So it started with painting the walls, the ceiling, to slowly populating the space according to our mood boards. We went through so many vintage stores in the city to find suitable furniture pieces. A lot of them are actually picked up straight from the street. So you'll be really surprised how many free furniture pieces we have in our space. In about between 2 to 3 months of just populating the space, we were always eyeing anything that's on the street. And so say a scenario that we went going through is for say brunch time. If I saw something that's super interesting, I'd be like, guys, just go on without me. I'm grabbing this, I'll join you after brunch. And that is one good thing for New York City. We're showing you guys the plan again, but this time the room labels, so you can relate to figure out better. So this is how you enter a room. This is the stairwell coming down. Also, I think I mentioned, our space is in the basement now. So you have to walk downstairs. This is how you enter the lobby, living room, library room, back to the largest floor space, winding hallway back to the lobby. So after 5 months of construction and lots of public This is the end result. This is the lobby when you first enter. It's one of the smaller rooms, dark, but rich in pattern and textures, with only 3 localized light sources. And so when you first come in, it's welcoming, but also mysterious. And this is the winding hallway right behind that's what we saw. These 2 rooms are actually more or less interconnected, and we use design elements as similar to each other. So we use dark blue paint. Some of the lobby actually borrowed the wallpaper. We designed some of the with it. And then this is our home area. Much brighter, as you can see, compared to the office space or the lobby space. Another view, so this is the view if you are standing at the kitchen space looking backwards. Remember this wardrobe? Our library. It's considered our most secret space because the way you enter and exit is hidden. For some of you who've come to our space, you know why I chose this photo. For those of you who don't know, and you probably missed it by now, the way you enter this library is through that wardrobe literally. That's our open area. And if you can't guess how you get out of this room, that far end, that piece of furniture at the bookcase is actually a Murphy door. So you open it. So the way you enter this library is literally crawling through a wardrobe and then finding your way to a hidden Murphy door, and that's how you complete a small office picture. Finally, our largest outdoor space, the forest room. Because it's a basement, our ceiling height is really low. It's about 8 feet 6 at most. So we added chiffon fabric to kind of soften the edges and create like a seemingly taller ceiling, if you will. It's not super obvious here, but if you look closely, the trees are actually in a 3x5 grid. We intentionally did it that way so that it's more of a surreal environment rather than this. So these are all the rooms that we have.
So now that we've discussed Wildrence's design theories at length and we've shown you how we use all those methods to build a physical space, I'm sure you're all curious about how it all works in real life with multiple different programs all together. Well, to tell you is one thing, but we'd rather show you. Our first example is 2 programs where we kept the space changes and the set changes to minimum. So we use tech, flow, and some small contextual details to produce 2 very different shows in completely different genres. So Refuge is a multiplayer game set in a post-apocalyptic world, and 6 Impossible Things is a whimsical, right in front of your face magic show. This is our trailer for Refuge.
Everyone's scrounging for basic resources, fighting for what little remains. With cities underwater, markets continuously crashing, environmental catastrophes, and violent global uprisings, the world is collapsing. So what if you could begin again? A self-sustaining utopia created to provide a new chance for civilization. Vast arrays of forests, state-of-the-art technology to create a new environmental ecosystem independent of outside influence. Today, I will test your skill set at analyzing information to problem-solve tasks and build the strongest team possible. A community of the brightest minds and highest skilled laborers to maintain every aspect of this new society. This is the future. Are you ready to begin?
So you'll see some of the same rooms in our next trailer for 6 Impossible Things, and maybe even the same props, but the way that each room is used and the narrative that it tells is quite different.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. In 6 Impossible Things, you don't watch the show, You are the show. When you arrive, the first thing you notice is that you are one of just 20 people. And unlike any magic show you've ever seen, this is a sensory magic show. You are a part of everything. Experience the most intimate and mind-expanding magic show in New York.
It's like nothing I've ever seen. It's ridiculous.
We've never seen anything like it, and it completely blew our minds.
This was not only better than like pretty much every magic show I've seen, but it's also just so different. I mean, you'll remember it forever because there's never going to be anything like it.
Every seat is a front row seat. Reserve your tickets today to 6 Impossible Things.
Immersive design. It's easy to think that a design space is something permanent, notably when the overall structure cannot change, that the textures, the colors, the feelings, the values cannot change easily, especially if you're already asking your audience to suspend this. But because we designed the space to be made for humans and showing, not telling, in conjunction with lighting, sound, and interactivity, we're able to change this cozy living room to a moody underground artist who you are. Wow. And this fire library into this psychedelic happiness layer. Another example of our space's adaptability shows drastic set changes from one show to another. Because of the way that we built up the structure in its flow and its scale, we're able to achieve maximum impact with non-invasive changes to the facade and interior. The project on the left is called Here, and it's an episodic immersive piece taking place in someone's home. And Mortality Machine is a piece that marries dance, live action roleplay, and puzzles to start a conversation about what happened every day. So this is our trailer for Here. So the same two rooms so the same two rooms that was shown in the trailer here is now transformed into an illegal lab and an abandoned basement for the Mortality Machine. So we also use the same techniques to combat design fatigue for returning audience members. Sometimes it's through physical set changes. The next series of slides you'll see, keep in mind that the changes from set to set only took place in a matter of a couple of hours. So this is our forest room, and the same room for our runway show. Changed again for 6 Impossible Things. And then for another event called the Next School Wizard. And sometimes it's just about giving different context. This is a photo of our wonderful wardrobe that you've all seen before. Sometimes this wardrobe is just a prop that makes the room more believable as a domestic type space. Other times it's a secret passage to a hidden room where the impossible can happen. And sometimes it can be an unassuming piece of furniture until a magic professor bursts through the door, interrupting a class. The same wardrobe can still be a surprise to those who know its secrets. We believe that our success can be measured to the diversity and the growth in the number of different immersive experiences. As a lot of you may know, creating an immersive project is no small feat. Especially when the project is new, has a tight deadline, or the budget is low. Realizing this, we set out to build this type of multifaceted space to help alleviate some of this burden. To help young projects find their feet, to inspire different genres and techniques to be explored, to help the industry become a bigger and better place for the creators as well as the audience. This focus also gives us the opportunity to work with many different creators from a variety of backgrounds, as well as a range of projects that satisfy our creativity. Also, because of the wealth of knowledge that comes from diversity, a trick from one project can easily become a solution for a problem in another. We're not saying that our space is a perfect answer, but we do believe that having more spaces like this can only benefit the growing community. So, before we end, let's circle back to our beloved blue door, the entrance to something special. To some, it's a landmark to finding our space amidst busy Lower East Side streets. This door bears the marks of all the different shows that have come through our space, in the form of graffiti, a sign, a poster, a sticker. Sometimes these marks disappear as a new show comes in, and sometimes these marks stay, enduring different audiences, multiple runs, and harsh weather. Depending on when you see the door, you may find a clue to a show that you're going to next, or you may feel incredibly vulnerable in passing the threshold back to the outside world. This blue door is a little bit of what Wildrence is all about. One door that can mean something different to a variety of people. Thank you.
Yes.
So enthusiastic.
Yeah, well, I mean, how do the trees work? When they reach in and grab and things happen?
So all the trees are wired with copper wiring, and they're connected to a capacitive touch board that's connected to a Raspberry Pi.
Okay.
And we have it connected, like we built a software framework in which we can figure out which inputs are happening, so we know if tree A is free touch or tree B is touch. So
Cool.
thank you. Yes.
The bird cage sensor, was that an RFID tag?
Yes, it was RFID. Yes.
I'm curious if after you made specific decisions about where walls go or other things that are more permanent, have you found any particular limitations since you've embarked on this space that you'd like to share with us?
Yes, definitely.
And then we work around it. Well, the one thing that we kind of regret not having is a bigger tech booth, because our tech booth is so small. You enter, you sit down, that's about it. So a lot of things, we have to hide everything inside that little tech booth. So we wanted a green room if possible. That was one.
If we had a bigger space, that would be possible. But fortunately, because of we kind of blended in a sweet spot of the different themes of rooms that we chose. We did have purpose in doing that, but we were granted the chance to be proved right. That doesn't happen often. Whenever we've had people come down for different projects, regardless of what theme or narrative of the space, is like, oh, this is perfect. Whether it's like a Peter Pan story or a magic walk
or heavy metal music video shot at our space. Great.
Yes.
Okay, first, awesome talk.
Thank you so much.
That was great. Second, I have a lot of questions about like the Raspberry Pi stuff. That's like more specialty. Can I talk to you?
Of course, yes. We're super excited to geek out over things that are not design related as well.
How many people can enter that space?
So it depends. We try to keep most of our events and shows to about a 20-person audience, mostly because we want it to be intimate, but not where you only see people, bodies, and faces. We want to be able to have a person to breathe in a space. We've had some events where we've maxed out at about 45 to 50, and that's if we're doing a music show or a concert or something like that.
I'm very excited to see. I was curious about the community that created this space. How was the community response to the variety of events that you've done? How do you respond?
Well, I think the more different genres that we do, the more industry actually find our space. They know, oh, they actually done a magic show now. There's a wizarding school. There's all these different types of events that we've done because they're so vastly different from each other. The community keep growing that way. Like say for the magic show, more of the people related to magicians, they will find out about the space. So it's really in that sense. We really like that. So we wanted to have diversity.
I mean, I already recognize a few people that have come to our space multiple times, and it's one of the things that we try to say that a lot of immersive experiences, well, I won't say a lot, some immersive experiences, a lot of games are hard to have repeat customers because once you've done them, there's no surprise, there's nothing interesting beyond just being able to play the game itself again. But because of the different genres that are coming through, we've had people come back time and time again. We're like family now. Yeah. So, I'm back.
How modular is your tech in the space? So like, is the tech infused with the objects and the props that you've already created, or can another company come in and say, I want this kind of thing, but I don't want it to be a bird cage, I want it to be like something else?
So we try to use as many pieces that have open source API, as well as not soldering wires in, so that you can easily kind of unplug one and plug another one together. Each room is outfitted, well, depending on the size and kind of tech heaviness of the room, it can range from 1 to 3 Raspberry Pis and just as many Arduinos. But they're all controlled by one Mac Mini in our control booth. So it does allow, we've had conversations in the past with, for example, professors at ITP who were like, oh, we'd love to have some students come in and just like have a free-for-all about like hackathon or whatever it is. Yes.
I wonder what you'd be able to share on how you structure deals with the shows or the artists. Is it revenue share, flat, combination?
You can come to the business talk later.
We do all kinds.
Yeah.
Not just strictly to one.
Yeah, I mean, we try to not encourage straight rentals, mostly because
we want to get involved.
And and we feel like we could best advise how to transform the space for the show. So we've had everything from straight rental all the way through full partnerships and
revenue share, profit share, all kinds of scenarios.
Thank you guys for coming. I love the idea of your space. I hope you're so successful that there's one in every city so that we can have. My question is, going off that one, I want to know about the beginning. When you guys first started, did you immediately partner up with someone or did you self-generate a project? How did you introduce yourself to the world? Because I've never heard of you before today.
Why, thank you. Well, actually, it was mostly self-generated
in the beginning.
And we tried to use sort of a little bit guerrilla tactics in terms of marketing, getting ourselves on Peerspace and other space rentals places. And then we were really careful about what the rentals were coming in for, whether it's a creative project. We tried to do more production work instead of like events at that point, because those are a little harder to control if there's a big company coming and wanting a party. And from there, we slowly built our base audience of partners, less than just audiences, customers. And we're like, oh, I have a project that I'd love to do something in this forest room. And now more people have seen it. We'll share the news.
Hello. Hey. 2 questions. First, is there talks about a second space, whether New Yorker or outside of the city? And the second is, I know, like we've talked multiple times, and you did say that at the beginning there was this like kind of weird lull. Can you talk a little bit about that lull and like kind of the waiting and what you thought that like represented in the industry happening, and now this sudden kind of boom we've all had?
If we aren't, this may come off a little bit more, but we do believe that we came into this space a little early. The overall immersive industry wasn't quite ready for what we were offering. So there was about a 2 to 2.5 year period where there wasn't an influx of people. We really have this project that is immersive, we need your space because.
And also just how we position ourselves was a little differently in the very beginning. We wanted to partner with different projects, different partners, but we didn't position ourselves as, like we didn't have a clear mind that we are a multifaceted space. We are good, only 1 minute left, and we're good to, have different plugins. That was not super clear in the beginning, so that also made me
the language, I mean, as all of you know, it's a growing lexicon, and for us, we're not an escape room.
Yeah.
But
that's our first project. And a lot of partners later on that we find, they're always saying, why didn't I find you earlier? And I think, well, that's probably part of our fault that we did marketing.
Entrepreneurship is not easy.
I think you still have a question.
Yeah, I was just wondering what inspired you to install like permanent walls versus just using like studio flats or some other form.
Well, you definitely want the space to feel real. And if someone were to, sometimes we do put up structures that are wall-like, that are not quite floor to ceiling or not structurally as sound as a studded wall. But I think it gives the permanent structure gives us a sense of stability to the project, and it does give us boundaries. It's more daunting to have this white sheet in front of you and be like, go, instead of being like, here's the circle, now make a smiley face.
And there's the other thing about permanent structures, sound bleed. We have to find, even with we build our walls actually with insulation in between. Sound bleed is still a problem. And so that's another thing that, if you only have thin walls and fake walls, or not floor to ceiling walls, then, some projects just go through.
0. Thank you so much.